It was a moment the world didn't see coming. An international summit broadcast live from Burkina Faso was about to feature a speech by President Ibrahim Traoré. The room was packed with dignitaries. Millions were watching. But this wasn't just another diplomatic formality. There was electricity in the air. Like something powerful was about to be said. Across the ocean, in a sleek, high-tech office at SpaceX, Elon Musk sat in front of a massive screen. His posture was casual, but his curiosity was piqued. Weeks earlier, Musk had made headlines by mocking African nations that were trying to build technology locally. He called their efforts naive wishful thinking. He'd said, claiming innovation required billions of dollars and world-class infrastructure. To him, Burkina Faso was an afterthought. But what Musk didn't expect was that this speech on this night would change everything. The camera cut to the podium. President Traoré stood tall, dressed not in a tailored Western suit, but in traditional Burkinabe attire. His eyes scanned the room, then locked straight into the camera like he was looking directly at you. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice calm but commanding. Today, I want to talk about something that goes beyond our borders. I want to talk about true innovation. There was a pause, not a pause of hesitation, but of deliberate silence. Like the calm before a storm, true innovation, he said, is not about who has the biggest bank account. It's not about importing expensive tools or following someone else's blueprint. It's about solving real problems. With real courage. The screen behind him lit up. Images of Burkina Faso's local villages flashed by solar panels lighting up once dark homes. Children studying by lamp instead of candle. Smart irrigation systems doubling food yields in drought-prone regions. And here in Burkina Faso, he continued, we are proving every day that dignity and creativity are stronger than doubt and cynicism. In California, Musk leaned forward. His smile faded. There was something in Traoré's tone, something unfamiliar. It wasn't anger. It wasn't desperation. It was resolve. Then came the sentence that made Elon Musk sit back in his chair. To those who believe we need billions to change our destiny, Traoré said, eyes steady. We have something to remind you. Real transformation doesn't come from wealth. It comes from people who refuse to be told what they can't do. For a moment, the auditorium was silent, and across the globe, Elon Musk was too. Elon Musk had heard speeches before, too many of them. Politicians talking big, saying little. But this one had him unsettled. Back in the auditorium, President Traoré wasn't done. Not even close. His voice lowered slightly, but his intensity sharpened. The screen behind him faded into a new image this time. Not technology, not graphs, but a group of teenage girls gathered under a solar-powered light, coding on old laptops, barefoot, smiling. They say we're too poor to innovate. Traoré said that we need to wait for others to save us, that we should stay in the back of the line. He took a breath. But here we are, lighting our own homes, feeding our own families, writing our own code. The audience in Burkina Faso began to shift forward in their seats. Cameras captured the crowd, ministers leaning in, students clutching notebooks, farmers in the back wiping tears. Traoré wasn't just delivering a speech. He was tearing down a mindset that had shackled a continent. He walked slowly across the stage. We are not waiting for permission anymore, he declared. We are building with what we have because our people have never lacked intelligence. Only recognition. Back at SpaceX. Elon Musk's expression had changed. His arms were crossed. He wasn't grinning now, he was listening. Traoré'S hand. The screen behind him changed again, this time to a local irrigation project run by teenage boys in a rural village. With only recycled parts and open-source code, they had doubled their community's food production. They didn't have funding from Silicon Valley. Traoré said. They didn't wait for a grant. They saw a problem. And they solved it. Then he looked straight into the lens. And to those who still think we're chasing fantasies, I say this with respect. If your vision of progress requires that we stay silent and dependent, then maybe your vision is too small. The room went dead silent. No applause. No whispers. Just stillness. Musk exhaled through his nose. Slowly. His mind raced. No name had been spoken. No insult thrown. But the message was as direct as a lightning bolt. And somehow, it wasn't offensive. It was humbling. He didn't know what to say, but for the first time in years, Elon Musk was speechless. And somewhere, deep inside, something began to shift. He sat back in his chair, staring at the screen long after the broadcast ended. Those words echoed like a drumbeat in his head. Real transformation doesn't come from wealth. It comes from people who refuse to be told what they can't do. And Elon Musk, the man who sent rockets into space, had just been grounded by the truth. For hours, Elon Musk said nothing. The internet buzzed with reactions to President Traoré's speech. Headlines popped up on news feeds. Commentators debated its message. But from Elon's silence, and that's what made what happened next so shocking. At 2:14 a.m. California time, Musk broke his silence with a tweet that no one expected. Just watched President Traoré's speech. It read, his message was powerful. Maybe I underestimated what countries like Burkina Faso can achieve with creativity and determination. It's time to rethink some things. The tweet exploded. Within minutes, hashtags began trending worldwide. Number, Musk acknowledges Burkina. Number, Traoré. Effect. Number, innovation has no borders. Journalists scrambled to verify if the post was real. It was. Elon had typed it himself. For a man who rarely admitted he was wrong and almost never addressed criticism, this was seismic. The world wasn't used to seeing titans of industry like Musk bowing to the humility of others. But this wasn't about defeat. It was something deeper. Something far more human. And far more inspiring. Across the Atlantic. In Ouagadougou, President Traoré saw the tweet while reviewing late-night briefing notes. He didn't react with surprise. He didn't rush to call a press conference. He simply leaned back in his chair and smiled quietly. When a journalist later asked him if he had expected such a response, Traoré answered calmly, I don't speak to win approval, but I do believe that when truth is spoken with dignity, it finds its way into the hearts of even the most powerful. His words struck a nerve. In classrooms across Burkina Faso, students watched replays of the speech and the tweet. In tech forums in Nairobi, Lagos, and Accra, young coders shared Musk's post with comments like, finally, they're seeing us. Meanwhile, at SpaceX headquarters, Musk called an emergency meeting. His development team filed into the sleek glass conference room, unsure of what to expect. Then Musk stood and surprised everyone. we're launching a new initiative. He said, it's called Innovation Without Borders. He paused. I want to work with people like Traoré, not to impose our solutions, but to learn, collaborate, and support local genius where it already exists. We've had blind spots. It's time to fix that. The room was stunned. This wasn't about public relations. Musk was serious, inspired, moved. And just like that, the story took another unexpected turn. Two leaders worlds apart had never spoken directly. But between them, something rare had been exchanged, mutual respect. And in that quiet moment, as the world watched with wide eyes, something extraordinary began to unfold, a bridge built not with contracts or money, but with humility. The ripple effect was immediate. Following Elon Musk's surprising response and President Traoré's viral speech, something extraordinary began unfolding on both sides of the globe. In California, Musk wasn't content to stop at a tweet. He turned to his team with a new sense of purpose. We're not just going to donate money, he told them. We're going to partner. We're going to listen. And so, Innovation Without Borders was born, a program designed to support local innovators in developing nations. But with one rule: no top-down solutions, no assumptions, only collaboration. We'll provide tools, not answers. Musk said, let them lead. Meanwhile, in Burkina Faso, President Traoré launched a bold national initiative of his own, Technology for Dignity. Its mission: to empower a generation of young Burkinabé to solve real problems in their communities through technology, and to do it with pride. In classrooms across the country, things began to change. Old chalkboards were replaced with donated laptops. Rural schools introduced courses on programming, robotics, and solar engineering. For the first time, students in remote villages were writing code, building circuits, and dreaming on their own terms. Traoré didn't just want to inspire hope, he wanted to institutionalize it. We're not building apps for Silicon Valley, he said during a televised address. We're building solutions for Cebu, for Kaya, for our people. The contrast was striking: Musk's billion-dollar rockets and Traoré's solar-powered schools. Yet somehow, both visions were now connected by mutual respect and a shared belief in untapped genius. And then came the first real proof that this wasn't just symbolism. Her name was Fatou, a 17-year-old girl from a small rural village. Fatou had barely made it through school due to poverty. But after joining one of the new coding programs, everything changed. Using just a refurbished laptop and an unstable internet connection, she built a simple but powerful mobile app. Its purpose: to connect local farmers with buyers in nearby cities, cutting out middlemen, raising profits, and reducing food waste. Before this app, I could barely feed my family, Fatou told a local news crew. Now, I help other farmers sell directly and earn more. It's all because of this program, and because someone believed we could do more. Her story went viral. International media picked it up. Fatou became a symbol, not just of progress, but of pride, of what's possible. When leaders don't wait for permission, and when the world stops underestimating potential. Back in California, Musk saw the headlines about her, and he smiled. No need for a tweet. No need for a headline. The message was clear. Change was already happening, and it was coming from the ground up. Her name echoed beyond the borders of her village. Fatou, the 17-year-old girl who had once walked barefoot to school, was now walking across a stage in Ouagadougou to receive a national award. She wasn't wearing anything fancy, just a simple dress and sandals, but she carried something more powerful than wealth. Proof. Proof that a child of the soil could change lives, not just survive them. Standing at the podium, Fatou looked out at the crowd: farmers, teachers, government officials, and international reporters. Cameras clicked, lights flashed, but her voice remained steady. "This isn't just my story," she began. "It's our story. I didn't invent hope. I just refused to let go of it." The room fell silent. Then she did something unexpected. She held up the very notebook where she had first scribbled the sketches for her app, water-stained, edges frayed, a corner missing. "This," she said, "was my startup capital." The audience erupted in applause. Backstage, President Traoré stood watching, hands clasped behind his back. His eyes didn't blink. His breath held tight in his chest. This was the vision he had fought for. But this story wasn't about him anymore. It was about what happens when leadership steps aside and lets people lead. Meanwhile, in the U.S., Elon Musk remained unusually quiet on social media. But behind the scenes, something was stirring. He scheduled a private roundtable, not with CEOs, but with young African developers. Among them, a video call with Fatou. It was brief, but unforgettable. "I saw your work," Musk told her, leaning forward. "It's better than most of what I see in Silicon Valley." Fatou didn't blush. She didn't freeze. She smiled and replied, "That's because we build what we need, not what sells." Silence. Then Musk laughed, a rare, humbled laugh. That clip alone got 22 million views in 48 hours. And back in Burkina Faso, the ripple effects were multiplying. In a dusty corner of a remote village, a small boy named Mamadou was handed his first solar-powered tablet. It came from a shipment funded by the Technology for Dignity campaign, partially supported now by international partners, inspired by Fatou's story. He opened it, stared at the screen, then at the man standing before him. "Mr. President," Mamadou said quietly, "I will not waste this." Traoré bent down, looked him in the eyes, and smiled. "You don't owe us anything, Mamadou," he whispered. "You're already proving that we were right to believe." That image of a child holding a tablet, of a leader kneeling to listen, was shared by millions. And for many, it became the symbol of something bigger than politics, bigger than economics, bigger than pride. It was the moment the world realized genius doesn't come from power. It comes from permission to dream. Months passed, but the fire lit by one speech, one app, one act of belief, it didn't fade. It spread. In the heart of Ouagadougou, a massive crowd gathered for a ceremony unlike any other. They weren't there for a concert, not for politics. They came to celebrate change. Farmers, students, programmers, mothers holding their children, international journalists. And right at the center, those whose lives had been transformed by the Technology for Dignity campaign. The sun was setting behind the makeshift stage as President Traoré stepped forward, wearing simple traditional clothing, no bulletproof vest, no teleprompter, just him and the people. He paused, looked at the faces before him. Then he spoke softly, slowly, like he was speaking to each heart in the crowd. "We are not here to celebrate a policy," he said. "We are here to honor the power of a people who refuse to be forgotten." The audience fell completely silent. "You, our children, our farmers, our coders, you are the true pillars of Burkina Faso. Not because of what we gave you, but because of what you've built with it." There were tears in the crowd. And then he turned to the story the world couldn't stop talking about. "When I saw Fatou raise that torn notebook on stage," he said, his voice tightening, "I realized something. We didn't just empower her. She reminded us of who we are." Images of Fatou flashed across a giant screen, her with her app, her shaking hands with farmers, her talking to Elon Musk. And then, one final picture. A wooden sculpture, two carved hands, joined together. The words etched at the base, "Kindness unites worlds." The gift had been handed to President Traoré by a small girl just hours earlier. He now held it high above his head for all to see. "This isn't just decoration," he said. "It's a message that we don't need permission to rise. We just need someone to believe." The crowd roared, not with frenzy, but with feeling. Cheers turned into applause. Applause into song. And at the edge of the stage, standing quietly, was Mamadou, the little boy who had promised not to waste his tablet. His eyes never left the president. Traoré stepped off the platform, walked toward the boy, bent down. "How's your learning going, Mamadou?" The boy looked up, holding his tablet with both hands. "I'm dreaming now, Mr. President," he whispered. "I didn't know I was allowed to." Traoré closed his eyes, just for a second, because that right there was the moment he had fought for. Not a law, not a project, not a tweet. A child discovering he had the right to dream. And for everyone watching across the country, across the world, it was no longer a story about Burkina Faso. It was a story about what happens when leaders believe in their people. The ceremony in Ouagadougou was over. The crowds had cheered. The songs had faded. And the lights were being packed away. But somewhere, in a quiet corner of the community center, a new story was just beginning. Her name was Fatou. And though the world now knew her as a tech pioneer, today her heart was heavy. She had traveled from Bobo Dioulasso, carrying news that no headline would ever capture. Her family was facing loss, deep personal loss, and she needed something even more powerful than attention. She needed connection. As she stepped into the building, she found Marie, a local organizer known for her strength, and Malik, a young man who had once lived on the streets and now helped others find their footing. Marie was on the phone, tears brimming in her eyes. But when she saw Fatou, she straightened, voice trembling. "She's here," Marie whispered into the phone. "It's coming in now." Malik stepped forward, wearing a sweater that had seen better days, but eyes full of warmth. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. Fatou could barely speak. Her hands shook as she nodded. "I had to come," she whispered. "I needed to see what you're building with my own eyes." Marie led her into a small room. Maps and documents were spread across the table, plans for schools, shelters, internet access points. Not dreams, blueprints. "This center," Marie said gently, "I was built for people like you, people facing hard moments. You're not alone, Fatou. You'll never be alone again. Fatu blinked away tears. But what happens next? She asked. Voice cracking. What happens to my family? To me, Malik placed a hand on her shoulder. You already answered that. He said. You came. That's more courage than most people will ever show. Outside. The community was arriving for another gathering. Parents. Teens. Teachers. Volunteers. They filled the space like roots, filling dry soil. Marie took the stage. Today, she began. Voice clear. We are here not just to celebrate success, but to remember something deeper. She paused. Human dignity is non-negotiable. No matter your circumstances, no matter your losses, you deserve respect and a future. The crowd went quiet. Some wept openly. Fatu watched from the doorway. Overcome, because in that moment, she realized something. Even in the face of grief, even when she had nothing left to give, she still had purpose. She still had people. And as the speech ended, she stepped forward. Not as a tech innovator, not as a guest of honor, as a human being seeking healing. Marie embraced her. I don't know what tomorrow holds. Fatu whispered. But I know this, I won't face it alone. And for those who had gathered that day, not just in person, but watching from around the world, it was clear this wasn't just a celebration of success. It was the rebirth of something greater: community, courage, and the quiet power of simply showing up. The sun dipped low over Ouagadougou. But even as the light faded, something brighter remained: a sense that Burkina Faso had sparked a new kind of revolution. One born not of power, but of purpose. Months after that historic speech, the world continued watching. Not for scandal, not for spectacle, but for what came next. At the heart of it all was President Traoré, still dressed in modest clothes, still walking through villages, not as a distant leader, but as a listener, a witness. On this day, he visited a family that had once lived in absolute poverty, one of the first beneficiaries of the Technology for Dignity campaign. He didn't arrive with cameras. He arrived with time. A little girl, no older than 8, stood outside their home, clutching a makeshift doll made of cloth. Her eyes were wide. Her voice was barely a whisper. Mr. President, she said, stepping forward. Do you want to see my classroom? Traoré bent down, smiled. Lead the way, he replied. Inside, the room was simple mud walls, wooden desks, but lined with new books, tablets powered by solar energy, and a whiteboard scribbled with ideas. I'm learning now, the girl said, voice rising with pride. I can read, and someday, I want to build something too. Traoré, chest tightened, because in that little classroom, he saw the result of it all. Not speeches, not donations, but transformation. And not just hers, his. Outside, a journalist captured the moment quietly, scribbling in a worn notebook. Today, he wrote, I saw an Africa that isn't waiting to be saved. I saw an Africa that remembers its history, honors its heroes, and builds bridges of dignity, one hand at a time. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Elon Musk was asked again, live on television, about that moment. About that leader. About that girl. The host leaned in, skeptical. So, Do you still think innovation needs billions of dollars and moonshot budgets? Musk paused. He wasn't smiling. He was remembering. That man, he said slowly, changed my thinking. He didn't ask for anything. He just showed the world what happens when people are allowed to rise. I underestimated him. Maybe I underestimated them all. The room fell silent, and once again, the world was reminded that true power doesn't come from platforms or profits. It comes from presence, from people, from dignity. Back in Burkina Faso, a final scene played out. During a small school ceremony, a child handed President Traoré a gift, a handmade wooden sculpture. Two figures holding hands. Etched into the base were four simple words: kindness unites the world. Traoré didn't speak. He didn't need to. Because in that moment, everyone watching across villages, cities, continents understood the truth. That even the quietest gestures can echo louder than the grandest declarations. And that sometimes, the future doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives in the form of a child with hope in her hands,